Hello everyone, my name is Chris, welcome to my hobby blog. Today we are going to be talking about a very wonderful movie. It's another one by Kuroneko Shindo, who did Onibaba, if you don't remember. I reviewed that a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. But this is a film he did a couple years later called Kuroneko. And I don't know if y'all can see that, but when you twist the image around on the case, the woman here disappears. So I think you can't really see her there, but if you flip it, there she is. This movie is absolutely incredible. I watched this a few years ago on DVD because this came out on Blu-ray maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but I hadn't seen it yet. But this one is all about I guess first I should begin with the first scene of the film, which is very incredible in my opinion, in terms of laying the foundations for what the rest of the movie is going to be about. A bunch of samurai that look very familiar to characters throughout the Kurosawa period pieces, such as Hidden Fortress or Seven Samurai. They come wandering out from the woods, from the bamboo grove that are near a certain house. And it looks very secluded. It's not as secluded as the house in Onibaba, but it's very not close to civilization, especially in this time period of the 1600s. But they find this house, they drink some water from the stream nearby, and they enter the house and completely ransack it. And after feeding themselves and taking all the valuables, they then end up raping a mother and daughter who are in the house. Who the daughter is married to a samurai who is not around. He was conscripted into this particular, war struggle that is going on in a couple miles away, and they haven't heard from him in a while. And so all these samurai come and they ransack it, rape them, and kill them, and set the house on fire. And in the morning, the bodies are still there somehow. And a black cat, that's what Kuroneko means, is black cat. The cat licks the open wounds of these two characters. And so begins our story. And the first 45 minutes or so is all about those two women coming back as vengeful spirits, which I made a little connection while watching it, but it really spells it out in the essay booklet that comes with the movie. And it's very, foreshadowing of what the Japanese horror genre became in the 1990s, with the vengeful spirits of Ringu in the form of Sadako, looking at the vengeful spirits that inhabit the house in the Ju-on films. All these different connections to the modern day J-horror, and it all began here. And I did not realize that until the essay. I was kind of like, a vengeful spirit, okay. So that reminds me of like Ju-on with the house, and they talk about that in the booklet, is its connection to the cultural beliefs of the Japanese peoples, is that if somebody is abused or killed, and there's a high amount of emotion, I believe, then when they die, the spirit goes on to inhabit whatever space that they were living at. So after the house is torched, the daughter, she kind of seduces each of the samurai years later to come back to her hut or to her house. That her mom is there, and they both have long ponytails, and it switches like a cat while the samurai are not looking. And so she seduces them and slowly kills basically any samurai ever. And because of the crimes that they were subjected to before their deaths. And while this is happening, we have a local shogunate or a lord of this particular territory, and he is played by Kei Saito, I believe is his name. He was the male character in this that the daughter was having a love affair with and that the mother was jealous of. So he plays a shogunate in this movie, and he's trying to hire a samurai in order to go kill these ghosts. And he doesn't really believe in ghosts, but he's kind of like, oh, what a great story, like we'll get a lot of money, it'll spread through the capital and all this stuff. And another woman in this movie is Yone. She plays the daughter, and she was also in this movie. I think she was the mother in this movie, because the daughter is not in this Kuroneko film. But yeah, so they finally hire a samurai who we get to spend a lot of time with before returning to the ghost story that this movie is. And the samurai is named Hachi, and we find out later that he is the husband of the daughter who was killed, Yone. And she actually he is kind of in a battle, just trying to survive in a film, well, not a film, but in a setting very similar to the setting of this film, where it's a bunch of reeds really high. And I think Onibaba really helped Kaneto Shindo and really cementing his idea for this movie, because this is much more well known than Onibaba. Onibaba, I think I love a lot more because of just all the different aspects. I've talked about it in my review, but during this movie, we meet Hachi, who is the husband of the daughter, and he is in this reed-filled setting, and he's running away from the supposed legendary figure who wields a very large iron spike. And he tricks him and kills him and beheads him and displays the head to the shogunate, who is played by Kei Sato. As I remarked, he was the male lead in Onibaba, but he becomes one of the retainers for this shogunate, and he is tasked with killing these ghosts. And complications ensue. That's about halfway through the movie, so it's not too many spoilers, but wow, this movie was just much better on a rewatch. I knew nothing about it my first time I watched it. I was just like, oh, Kuroneko. Grabbed it from my school shelf. Played for about a minute, and the disc was scratched, so it skipped like to the middle, and I didn't know because it cut when a camera cuts, and so it was really confusing. I didn't like it at all. I think I've even said on this channel, like, I didn't like it really at all when I was discussing Onibaba, but it had been years. And after diving into the supplements for Onibaba, I was like, yeah, I'm going to revisit this. I think this movie is going to really benefit from a rewatch, and it did. I was enthralled throughout the entire movie, especially once I kind of figured out what the story was, because I was like, this really isn't a ghost story. It's very much a drama. It's very classical kabuki theater. And those whole plays. But yeah, I just really, really like this release. They have a great essay that was written by somebody who actually wrote the Broken Mirrors, Broken Minds book, which has been on my watch list forever. That's a book all about the films of Dario Argento. And it was really fascinating to discover, oh, hey, she wrote an essay for this release. And the essay is phenomenal. She talks about the Juon films, Ringu. She talks about Suspiria and how there's a link to that movie used through the music of this film. It's just really, really wonderful. There was one more point. Yes, so another supplement that's on here, I guess, aside from the booklet, there's a 1 hour interview with the director filmed in 1997, so shortly before he died. He was 86 when he was being interviewed. Not for this release, obviously, but for I think, a rerun through the theater. They were doing a interview circuit with him, and he had just finished another movie. He was still making movies up until his death. But that interview, he talks about his entire career. He talks about how he got into filmmaking and becoming a director, and how his time during World War II, because he was drafted into the army, he never accepted a officer rank. He always wanted to be the grunt, I guess, of the army, because he was very anti-war. He did not like it, and his hometown, as he talks about in the interview, was Hiroshima. And he was just really, really anti feudalism and anti-government for a very, very long time. And I actually... Wait, I'm trying to think. No, it is not him, but he does... I'm thinking of Misaki Obayashi, who made Harakiri and The Human Condition and a couple other amazing movies. But he talks about how he really hated the war, and one of his movies that he made was a direct, I guess, I'm trying to think, is this the same guy? I just watched the interview. I can't believe I can't remember. He worked during the war. I guess he was he was somebody. He didn't really talk about that, but he came back to his studio that he used to work at before the war, and he said that he'd always wanted to be a screenwriter, and so being a screenwriter gave him a lot of freedom, a lot of security in terms of jobs, because a screenwriter was considered much more important than a director, which I was very shocked to hear about that, but it makes sense, because when you had to when you made a film back in those days, especially in Japan, you needed financing, because it's really expensive to make a movie, especially in those days. Nowadays, you can just kind of use your phone or pick up a video camera from Best Buy or somewhere for like $50, and it's pretty good. But back in those days, you need to buy film stock, you need to buy film reels, you had to pay people to transport everything, because everything's big and bulky. And he said that while he was a screenwriter, he wrote a script all about his wife. He said it was 30% fiction, 70% nonfiction. This movie that he wrote in honor of his wife, who had just recently passed away. And he said how he got into directing was that the studio saw the script, loved it, and was like, okay, we'll give it to you. But, we're going to get this person for a director. He was like, no, I personally have to direct this, because I have such an understanding of my feelings towards my wife. And it was just a big thing. And it led to him forming his own production company and making the movie the way he wanted. And just him talking about his entire life from the time that he began writing screenplays to today. He's still making movies, at least during the interview those days of 1997, 98. And it was just very illuminating. I am much more interested in this director than I thought I was. He has other movies in the collection, in the Criterion collection. This is a Criterion release. You can see the spine, has the C. But another film he made is called The Naked Island. I haven't seen that, but I've seen the cover for that. It's on Blu-ray. I've always been curious about it, but I never just looked at it. I was never that curious, but the Barnes & Noble sale is still going. So I think I'm going to have to pick it up and check it out, because this release was just phenomenal. I love the interview. For Onibaba, we had a whole interview about Onibaba, but none about the director and his work. So it was so nice to see for this release that they included an hour-long interview with the director. It was incredible. And there's also a written interview in here. I didn't read it because I assumed that's covering the same topics that was in the Korea interview. I know enough about the movie that I was able to enjoy it a lot more than I was on Onibaba, where I was like, yeah, it was really good, but and then I watched the supplement and it became like, oh yeah, it's one of my favorites. But this one is now part of my favorites. It is so haunting, striking. All the little precursors to the Japanese horror genre is incredible. I love seeing how the idea of a vengeful spirit became like such a hallmark for Japanese horror genre, for the Japanese horror genre, J-horror, and it all started here. And so that was really fascinating, and I love that she disappears when you like turn the case. So okay, that was long. This might be my longest review in a while. Yeah. Barnes & Noble sale's still going on, so if you haven't seen this and are interested, now's the time to get it. It is 50% off. Excuse me, hiccups. It's 50% off right now. Very wonderful. If you want, you can also get this. If you had to choose between the two, I don't know. I love them both. This one, Kuroneko was a lot easier to love without the supplements, but with the supplements for Onibaba, I think I love this movie more because of all the little touches that the director put in, as he talked about in the supplements, which you can watch in my other review. But okay, I think that's it. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Comment what you think about the movie. I want to know what you guys think of this movie, if you guys are interested in watching it, if you haven't seen it already, all that. So thank you for watching.